The moment I discovered my brother, Mark, had stolen everything from me, a cold dread coiled in my stomach. It wasn't just money, it was years of my life, my trust, and every dream I had carefully nurtured. For decades, Mark and I had been inseparable. Two peas in a pod, or so I thought. We built our landscape design business from the ground up, brick by painstaking brick through blistering summers and biting winters in suburban Ohio. Every late night, every early morning, every sacrifice, it was always for us. Or so he'd led me to believe. What if I told you that in just 45 minutes, you'll witness a betrayal so deep, so calculated, it will shatter your understanding of family. And then, you'll uncover the one hidden message that turned the tide, changing everything I thought I knew about justice and revenge? Everyone thinks they know their family. But what happens when the person you trust most becomes your greatest enemy? I'm talking about a betrayal that started small, a missing 100 here, a 500 there, easily explained away by business expenses or accounting errors. I, naive fool that I was, always believed him. He was my little brother after all. My mother, God rest her soul, always said, families stick together, always. I lived by that creed. I defended him to my wife, Sarah, when she'd raise a skeptical eyebrow, her instincts sharper than mine. He's just not good with numbers, honey, I'd say, waving away her concerns. Then came the day the bank called. Not just any call, but a frantic one. About a foreclosure notice on our family home. The one I'd inherited from our parents, the one I'd poured my heart and soul into, the one where Sarah and I had raised our kids. It was a place steeped in memories, a sanctuary. Mark had been handling all the finances, assuring me everything was under control, all right. Under his control and spiraling straight into a financial abyss. My resentment simmered, then boiled over. How could he? How could my own flesh and blood do this? The feeling was a burning fire in my chest, a constant nagging ache that refused to dissipate. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. Every conversation felt like a landmine. The world, once a place of relative certainty, now felt like quicksand. The man I had shared childhood secrets with, the one who stood by me at my wedding, had systematically, meticulously, dismantled my life. The true betrayal hit me like a freight train when I confronted him. His eyes, usually so quick to feign remorse, were cold, distant. He didn't deny it, he just stared, a smirk playing on his lips. "You were too trusting, big brother," he said, his voice devoid of any emotion. That single sentence sliced through me, deeper than any knife. It wasn't just the money, it was the psychological warfare, the calculated deception that had gone on for years, right under my nose. My trust, once an unbreakable shield, lay shattered at my feet. From that moment on, a singular obsession consumed me, finding a way to make him pay. Not just for the money, but for the humiliation, for the sleepless nights, for the tears I'd seen in Sarah's eyes. Every fiber of my being screamed for justice. I spent countless hours poring over old financial statements, bank records, anything that could give me an edge. I felt like a detective in my own tragedy, piecing together the fragments of a life he had purposefully fragmented. This wasn't just about reclaiming what was mine, it was about reclaiming my dignity, my sense of self. The path to uncovering the truth was fraught with dead ends and false leads. It felt like I was fighting a ghost, a shadow of the brother I once knew. But then, tucked away in an old, dusty filing cabinet in the back of our shared office, amidst decades of invoices and receipts, I found it. A small, unassuming envelope addressed to me in our mother's distinctive handwriting. I remembered her giving it to Mark years ago, telling him to hold on to this for your brother. He'd said it was just old tax documents. It wasn't. Inside, nestled amongst faded photographs and a handwritten letter, was a single cryptic note. A message from my mother, left long before her passing. A message that spoke of Mark's past struggles, his inherent weaknesses, and a secret plan she had devised to protect me, should he ever succumb to his darker impulses. This wasn't just a note, it was a blueprint, a lifeline, a hidden weapon against the very person she loved. This message, meticulously crafted by my mother's foresight, was about to change everything. It was the key to unlocking Mark's carefully constructed web of deceit, and the pathway to the most unexpected form of justice. You won't believe what she knew and what she did, to protect me from the very person I thought I knew best. What I discovered next didn't just expose Mark. It revealed a side of my mother I never knew existed. A fierce protector operating from beyond the grave, and it set me on a collision course with my brother that would end in a confrontation you simply cannot miss. My name is Alex. For years I believed my brother Michael was my closest confidant, my fiercest protector. We grew up in a small, unassuming house in suburban Ohio, our lives intertwined like the gnarled roots of the old oak tree in our backyard. He was always the charismatic one, the golden boy who could charm anyone, while I preferred the quiet solitude of my books and my art. Our parents, bless their hearts, never saw the subtle cracks forming in Michael's facade, the way his ambition sometimes overshadowed his empathy. They saw only their two boys, seemingly inseparable. The resentment, though, had been simmering for a long time. A low, persistent burn beneath the surface of our outwardly idyllic family life. It wasn't about petty sibling squabbles, it was deeper, more fundamental. Michael always had a way of taking what he wanted, of making it seem like it was his due, even if it meant stepping over me. I remember the year I poured my heart into a science fair project, an intricate model of a self-sustaining ecosystem. I spent months researching, building, perfecting every tiny detail. Michael, with his effortless charm, convinced our teacher to let him help me present it, and by the end of the fair, everyone was praising his ingenuity, his vision. My contribution, my sleepless nights, vanished into the background. That was just one small instance, a foreshadowing of the grand betrayal to come. The real turning point, the moment the simmering resentment ignited into a raging inferno, occurred just a few months ago. Our grandmother, a woman whose wisdom and love had been the bedrock of my life, passed away. Her will was clear, her cherished antique pocket watch, a family heirloom passed down through generations, was to go to me, Alex. It wasn't just a watch, it was a symbol of her trust, her belief in my quiet strength. The watch held sentimental value beyond measure, a tangible link to her comforting presence. She had worn it every day, the delicate engravings worn smooth by time and touch. I had envisioned wearing it on my wedding day, passing it down to my own children, a legacy of love. Michael, however, saw things differently. He argued that as the older brother, the head of the family now, he was entitled to it. Our parents, still reeling from grief, were too overwhelmed to mediate effectively. They just wanted peace, a fragile truce in the face of loss. I tried to explain, to plead, to remind him of Grandma's explicit wishes. He just smiled, that infuriating, knowing smile, and dismissed my feelings as overly sentimental. "It's just a watch, Alex," he'd said. "And besides, I'll take better care of it." The casual dismissal, the complete disregard for my feelings and Grandma's wishes, felt like a punch to the gut. Then came the day I discovered it missing. Not just missing from its display case, but gone from the house entirely. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic drumbeat of disbelief and rising panic. I searched everywhere, tearing apart my room, then the entire house, my desperation growing with each fruitless attempt. When I finally confronted Michael, he feigned ignorance, his eyes wide and innocent. "I haven't seen it, Alex. Are you sure you didn't misplace it?" His voice was calm, almost too calm. I knew, with a chilling certainty, that he was lying. He had stolen it. The audacity, the sheer disrespect, was a raw wound. My own brother, who I had defended countless times, who I had shared secrets with, had betrayed me in the most intimate way possible. He hadn't just taken an object, he had stolen a piece of my history, a tangible connection to the woman who had loved me unconditionally. The sting of that betrayal was profound. It wasn't just the theft of the watch, but the shattering of the image I had held of him, of our bond. The resentment I had harbored for years transformed into something far more potent, a burning desire for justice, for him to acknowledge what he had done, to feel the weight of his actions. I spent countless nights replaying his dismissive words, his casual lies. The watch, once a symbol of love, became a symbol of his deceit, a constant reminder of his casual cruelty. I knew then, with every fiber of my being, that I couldn't let this stand. This wasn't just about a watch, it was about reclaiming my dignity, about making Michael face the truth he so readily ignored. My peaceful world had been irrevocably shattered, replaced by a consuming need for resolution. The gnawing emptiness left by Michael's betrayal festered, transforming into a cold, hard resolve. I couldn't just mourn the loss of my grandmother's watch, I had to fight for it, for what it represented. My first step was obvious, a confrontation. I called Michael, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and disbelief. He answered, his tone annoyingly casual, as if nothing significant had transpired. I demanded to know why he had taken it, why he had so callously disregarded Grandma's wishes, my feelings. His response was a masterclass in gaslighting. Michael claimed Grandma had changed her mind at the last minute, that she had whispered to him her true desire for him to have the watch. He painted me as the greedy, ungrateful one, twisting the narrative until I almost doubted my own memory. He even suggested I was imagining things due to grief. The sheer audacity of his lies, the way he manipulated my emotions, ignited a spark of fury within me that I hadn't known I possessed. This wasn't just about a watch, it was about his fundamental disrespect, his pathological need to control and dominate. I knew then that a direct confrontation wouldn't work. Michael was too skilled at deflection, too adept at twisting reality to suit his own agenda. I needed proof, something undeniable that would expose his deceit. My mind raced, searching for any avenue, any small detail that could unravel his carefully constructed web of lies. I started by revisiting Grandma's house, now eerily silent without her presence. I meticulously searched her study, her bedroom, any place she might have kept important documents. I was looking for anything, a letter, a note, a revised will, anything that contradicted Michael's outrageous claims. Days bled into weeks. The house, once a sanctuary of warmth and comfort, became a sterile crime scene in my relentless investigation. I sifted through old photo albums, hoping a picture might hold a clue. I read through her journals, searching for any mention of a change in her will or a secret conversation with Michael. Each dead end fueled my frustration, but also strengthened my resolve. I knew Grandma, and she was meticulously organized, a stickler for written records. The idea that she would make such a significant change to her will without documenting it felt inherently wrong. One afternoon, as I was about to give up on the study, my gaze fell upon a small, ornate wooden box on her desk. It was a music box, a gift from our grandfather, one she rarely opened. I remembered her telling me once that it held her most cherished secrets. With a surge of hope, I opened it. Inside, nestled among faded photographs and dried flowers, was a small, leather-bound diary. It wasn't her main journal, but a smaller, more private one. My heart pounded as I pulled it out. Flipping through the delicate pages, I found entries detailing her last few months. Her handwriting, though a little shaky, was unmistakably hers. I scanned for any mention of the watch, of Michael, of a change in her wishes. Then, I saw it. A series of entries, dated just days before her passing. They spoke of Michael's increasingly frequent visits, his persistent questions about her will, specifically the watch. She wrote about feeling pressured and uncomfortable by his insistence. My blood ran cold as I read her words, confirming my darkest suspicions. She wrote about how Michael had, in fact, tried to convince her to change the will, to leave the watch to him. But Grandma, with her unwavering sense of fairness, had firmly refused. She explicitly reaffirmed her desire for me, Alex, to inherit it. The final entry, scrawled with a sense of urgency, mentioned Michael's unusual behavior and her decision to hide a final secret message within the watch itself, just in case he tried something. A hidden message. The words reverberated in my mind. This wasn't just proof. This was a roadmap. My hands trembled as I reread the entry, a wave of vindication washing over me, quickly followed by an even deeper surge of anger at Michael. He hadn't just taken the watch, he had tried to manipulate Grandma in her final days, then lied about it with such brazen confidence. The diary was a damning piece of evidence, but the hidden message, that was the key. It was Grandma's last act of protection, a testament to her enduring love and her keen understanding of her grandson's true nature. My quest for resolution had just transformed into a mission to uncover Grandma's final truth and expose Michael's treachery for all to see. The watch, once a symbol of his deceit, now held the promise of his undoing. My hands trembled as I carefully removed the back of the watch. The faint scratching sound of metal on metal echoed in the silent room, each tiny movement a testament to the enormity of what I was doing. I wasn't just dissecting a timepiece, I was dismantling a lifetime of assumptions about my brother Michael and our family. The hidden message, Grandma's final act, felt like a lifeline thrown to me across the vast chasm of her absence. It was a cryptic inscription, barely visible, etched into the inner casing, "Truth hides where shadows play." Seek the light, Alex, for what truly matters. This wasn't some grand secret revealing a hidden fortune, no treasure map to forgotten riches. It was something far more profound, a direct challenge from beyond the grave, a call to action. Grandma knew Michael. She truly understood him in a way our parents never could. Her words were a warning, a guide, and a validation of every uneasy feeling I'd ever had about him. The resentment, which had been a slow burn, now flared into a focused determination. I had to understand what she meant, what truth she wanted me to uncover. The watch, once a symbol of Michael's deceit, now pulsed with a new energy, a silent promise of his undoing. I spent countless nights poring over old photographs, letters, anything that might offer a clue. My apartment, once a sanctuary of quiet order, transformed into a war room. Maps of our hometown were spread across the dining table, old newspaper clippings scattered amongst them. I revisited every memory, every subtle slight, every instance where Michael had manipulated a situation to his advantage. The science fair project, the borrowed money never repaid, the way he always managed to be in the spotlight. They all coalesced into a pattern, a mosaic of calculated self-interest. My obsession with uncovering the truth grew with each passing day, consuming my thoughts, blurring the lines between past and present. I barely ate, slept even less, driven by an unshakable need to understand the full scope of Michael's deception. One evening, staring at an old photo of Grandma's antique shop, a place filled with forgotten treasures and whispered histories, her words echoed in my mind. Truth hides where shadows play. It clicked. Grandma wasn't just being poetic. She was being literal. Her shop, a labyrinth of dusty shelves and forgotten corners, was a place where shadows truly played. I remembered her telling me stories about secret compartments in old furniture, hidden messages in antique books. Could she have left another clue there, something more concrete than the inscription in the watch? The thought sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. The next morning, I drove the familiar route to our old hometown, the landscape a blur outside my window. The antique shop, now owned by a distant cousin, stood exactly as I remembered it, a charming relic frozen in time. The bell above the door jingled, a sound that usually brought a wave of nostalgia, but today, it only heightened my tension. My cousin, a kind woman named Sarah, greeted me with a warm hug, her eyes filled with sympathy for my recent loss. I fabricated a story about wanting to find a memento of Grandma, something to remember her by. Sarah, unsuspecting, gave me free rein to browse. Every creak of the floorboards, every glint of dust in the sunlight felt charged with significance. I moved through the aisles, my senses on high alert, searching for anything out of place. I ran my fingers over old wooden chests, examined the spines of forgotten books, my heart pounding with anticipation. Then, in a dimly lit corner, tucked away behind a towering grandfather clock, I saw it. A small, unassuming wooden box, not much larger than my hand, nestled amongst a pile of tarnished silver. It was an ordinary box, nothing remarkable about its appearance, but a small, almost imperceptible scratch on its lid caught my eye. It was the same unique scratch pattern I'd seen on the inside of Grandma's watch, a tiny, almost invisible mark that only someone who knew the watch intimately would recognize. My breath hitched. This wasn't a coincidence. This was another clue, another breadcrumb in Grandma's carefully laid trail. My hands shook as I picked up the box. It was surprisingly heavy for its size. I tried to open it, but it was locked. No keyhole was visible, no obvious clasp. It was a puzzle, just like Grandma loved. My mind raced, trying to recall any of her old riddles, any of her clever tricks. This was more than just a box. It was a testament to her foresight, her unwavering belief that the truth about Michael needed to be brought to light. The air in the shop suddenly felt thick with unspoken secrets, and I knew with absolute certainty that I was on the verge of uncovering something that would shatter our family's carefully constructed reality. The air in the shop suddenly felt thick with unspoken secrets, and I knew with absolute certainty that I was on the verge of uncovering something that would shatter our family's carefully constructed reality. I carefully lifted the false bottom, my fingers trembling slightly as they brushed against a small, aged leather journal nestled within. Its cover was worn smooth from years of handling, the pages brittle and yellowed. A faint, almost forgotten scent of lavender and old paper wafted up, instantly transporting me back to Grandma's sun-drenched study. This wasn't just any journal. It was her private thoughts, her observations, her secrets. My heart hammered against my ribs, a drumbeat of anticipation and dread. What hidden truths lay within these fragile pages? Opening the journal, I found Grandma's elegant looping script filling the first page. It wasn't a diary in the traditional sense, but a chronicle of events, meticulously dated, spanning years. My eyes scanned the entries, searching for anything that might connect to Michael, to the watch, to the gnawing feeling in my gut. The early entries spoke of mundane family life, small joys and worries. Then, an entry from 10 years ago caught my attention, its words stark and unsettling. Michael's ambition worries me. He sees only the prize, never the cost. His recent actions, they are not just competitive, they are manipulative. My breath hitched. This was it. This was the first crack in the carefully curated image of my brother Michael, the golden boy. I flipped forward, my gaze devouring each word, each accusation. Grandma had seen it all. The subtle ways Michael twisted situations to his advantage, the casual disregard for others' feelings, the relentless pursuit of his own desires. She wrote about a scholarship application, one I had poured my heart into, only to lose out to Michael, who had apparently assisted me with the essay, subtly altering key phrases to diminish my voice and amplify his own. The memory of that crushing disappointment, the feeling of being overlooked despite my efforts, came rushing back with a fresh wave of bitterness. It wasn't just the science fair, it was a pattern, a meticulously woven tapestry of deceit. The journal continued, detailing Michael's escalating ruthlessness. There was an entry about a small inheritance from a distant aunt, money that was supposed to be divided equally between us. Grandma's entry revealed that Michael had somehow convinced the executors that I was financially stable and didn't need my share, while he, as the more responsible one, should receive the bulk. I remembered feeling a vague sense of unease at the time, a whisper of suspicion, but that was significant. Michael's easy explanations and our parents' unquestioning belief in him had always quelled my doubts. Now, the truth was laid bare, a festering wound exposed to the harsh light of day. Then came the entry that truly made my blood run cold. It was dated just weeks before Grandma's passing. I overheard Michael speaking to a lawyer. He believes he has found a loophole in my will regarding the watch. He plans to challenge it, claiming I was not of sound mind. He is relentless. I fear for Alex. This watch is his rightful inheritance, a symbol of my faith in him, not a prize for Michael's grasping hands. My vision blurred. Michael, my brother, plotting to steal Grandma's most cherished possession, not just from me, but from her memory, from her final wishes. The betrayal was so profound, so absolute, it felt like a physical blow. My hands clenched around the journal, the fragile paper crinkling under the pressure. The resentment I had carried for so long, the simmering anger exploded into a white-hot rage. It wasn't just about the watch anymore. It was about every slight, every manipulation, every time Michael had undermined me, dismissed me, and ultimately stolen from me. He hadn't just taken physical objects. He had stolen my confidence, my sense of worth, my trust. And our parents, bless their hearts, had been blind to it all, enabling his insidious behavior with their unwavering belief in their golden son. I closed the journal, its secrets now burning within me. The quiet solitude of the antique shop, once a comforting haven, now felt like a pressure cooker. I had to confront him. I had to expose him. The thought of facing Michael, of laying bare his deceit, filled me with a terrifying mix of fear and exhilaration. This wasn't just about reclaiming a watch. It was about reclaiming my truth, my dignity, the carefully constructed reality of our family, the one where Michael was the charming, successful older brother and I was the quiet, artistic one, was about to crumble. And I, Alex, was going to be the one to bring it down. I left the shop, the journal clutched tightly in my hand, the weight of its revelations heavy in my heart, knowing that the confrontation I had so long avoided was now inevitable. The journal, a heavy truth in my hands, felt like a ticking bomb as I walked toward Michael's apartment. Each step on the worn city sidewalk echoed with the weight of years of unspoken grievances, of a bond that had frayed into something unrecognizable. The air was thick with the humid August evening, a fitting atmosphere for the storm I was about to unleash. I imagined the moment of confrontation, rehearsing lines in my head, but no amount of preparation could truly ready me for what lay ahead. This wasn't just about the watch anymore. It was about every slight, every manipulation, every moment he had subtly diminished me for his own gain. Reaching his building, a sleek, modern structure that screamed success, I felt a tremor of something akin to fear, quickly overshadowed by a fierce resolve. This was it. The elevator ride up was agonizingly slow, each floor clicking by like a countdown. When the doors finally parted, I found myself standing before his polished oak door, a stark contrast to the humble home we'd shared as children. I took a deep breath, the journal clutched tight, and knocked. The door swung open, and there he was, Michael, looking as effortlessly charming as ever, a half-smile playing on his lips. He was holding a glass of amber liquid, the clinking of ice a familiar sound from our past. His eyes, though, held a flicker of surprise, quickly masked. Alex? To what do I owe this unexpected pleasure? His voice, smooth as always, grated on my nerves. I didn't return his smile. My gaze was steady, unwavering. We need to talk, Michael. His eyebrows rose slightly, a subtle shift that told me he sensed the shift in my demeanor. All right, come in. Don't just stand there. He gestured vaguely, his hand still holding the glass. Stepping inside, the apartment was exactly as I'd pictured it. Minimalist, expensive, a shrine to his carefully curated image. My eyes scanned the room, landing on a framed photograph on a side table, a picture of us as kids, arms slung around each other, beaming. The irony was a bitter taste in my mouth. So, he began, taking a sip from his drink, what's so important it couldn't wait for a phone call? He leaned against the marble counter of his open-plan kitchen, feigning casualness, but I saw the tension in his jaw, the way his eyes darted to mine then away. I didn't mince words. It's about the watch, Michael. And everything else. I held up the journal, its worn leather cover a stark contrast to the pristine surfaces of his apartment. Do you recognize this? His eyes narrowed slightly, a flicker of recognition, then a dismissive shrug. Should I? Looks like an old book. Don't play dumb, I retorted, my voice rising, the carefully constructed calm beginning to crack. This is Mom's journal. The one she kept hidden. The one with all her secrets. I opened it to a specific page, one detailing his manipulation of our grandmother. His calculated efforts to sway her will. She knew, Michael. She knew what you were doing. She just couldn't bring herself to confront you. His casual facade finally shattered. The glass clattered onto the counter, liquid splashing. His eyes, usually so confident, were now wide with a mixture of shock and something else. Fear. What are you talking about? That's ridiculous. He tried to laugh, but it came out as a strained, hollow sound. Is it? I pressed, my voice now shaking with the force of my long-suppressed anger. She wrote it all down. How you convinced her I was irresponsible. How you painted me as ungrateful. How you twisted her words to make it seem like she wanted you to have the watch, even though she'd promised it to me. I thrust the open journal towards him, pointing to her neat, elegant handwriting. It's all here. Every lie, every manipulation. He stared at the page, his face draining of color, the carefully constructed reality he lived in, the one where he was the benevolent, misunderstood brother, was crumbling before his eyes. That's not true, he stammered, his voice losing its smooth edge. She was confused sometimes. She didn't know what she was writing. Don't insult her memory, Michael, I said, my voice cold, cutting through his pathetic attempts at denial. She was sharp, even at the end. She was just too kind, too loving to expose her own son. But she wanted the truth to come out eventually. She left this for me to find. He looked from the journal to me, his eyes now filled with a desperate cornered animal's panic. You can't believe this. She was old, Alex. You know how easily people can be influenced. I know how easily you can influence people, I shot back, the years of resentment pouring out. The science fair, Michael. My art school application, where you, helpfully, suggested I focus on something more practical. Every single time I tried to achieve something, you were there, subtly undermining me, making sure you always shone brighter. He flinched, the memories I was dredging up clearly hitting home. That's not fair, Alex. I was just trying to look out for you. No, I countered, shaking my head slowly, the full weight of his betrayal settling in. You were looking out for yourself. Always. And the watch. That was the final straw. You didn't just steal an heirloom, Michael. You stole her last gift to me. You stole her trust, her intention. A long silence hung between us, broken only by the distant sounds of city traffic. His eyes, once so full of a calculated charm, were now raw with something I hadn't seen in them before, genuine shame. He opened his mouth, then closed it, searching for words that wouldn't come. The truth, laid bare, was suffocating him. What do you want? He finally whispered, his voice hoarse, defeated. I looked at him, my brother, the person I had once idolized, and felt a profound sadness. The triumph I thought I would feel was mixed with a deep ache for what we had lost, for the brother I thought I knew. I want you to admit it, I said, my voice softer now, but no less firm. I want you to admit what you did, not just to me, but to yourself. And then, I want you to make it right. The confrontation, long feared, was here. The truth was out, but the resolution, the true closure, still felt a long way off. The silence in the room stretched, thick and suffocating, after my demand for Michael to admit his actions. His gaze, once so defiant, flickered, a tiny crack appearing in his carefully constructed facade. He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. I saw the internal struggle, the war raging within him between pride and a nascent unwelcome honesty. This wasn't just about the watch anymore. It was about years of unspoken resentments. A lifetime of being overshadowed, of having my achievements subtly undermined. The air crackled with the weight of our shared history. Every slight, every perceived injustice, hanging heavy between us. Finally, a ragged sigh escaped him. His shoulders slumped, and he ran a hand through his already disheveled hair. "Okay, Alex," he began, his voice hoarse, barely a whisper. "Okay, I took it. I took Grandma's watch." The words, simple as they were, hit me with a profound force. It wasn't the triumphant confession I had envisioned, no dramatic breakdown, but the raw admission was enough. It was the first time in my life I had heard Michael concede a wrong, truly admit a fault, without deflection or excuse. A strange mix of vindication and sorrow washed over me. The victory felt hollow, tinged with the sadness of seeing my brother, once my hero, brought low by his own actions. He continued, his voice gaining a little strength, though still laced with shame. I was jealous, Alex. Always. You always had this quiet strength, this artistic talent, this connection with Grandma that I envied. I thought if I had the watch, if I had that symbol of her affection, I could somehow become more like you, or at least feel worthy of her love. His confession poured out. A torrent of insecurities I had never imagined lay beneath his company. Confident exterior. He spoke of the pressure he felt to always be the best, the golden child, and how my quiet successes felt like a personal challenge to his perceived superiority. He even admitted to manipulating the science fair project, not just for the recognition, but to prove he could outshine me, even in my own domain. It was a stark revelation, a peek behind the curtain of Michael's carefully curated image. He wasn't the invincible, charming rogue I had always seen. He was a deeply flawed individual wrestling with his own demons. The anger that had fueled me for so long began to recede, replaced by a complicated empathy. I saw not just the brother who had wronged me, but the boy who had always felt he had something to prove. "And the message?" I asked, my voice still steady, though my heart ached. "The message inside the watch?" Michael looked up, his eyes meeting mine, and for the first time, I saw genuine remorse there. "I never saw a message, Alex. I pawned it almost immediately. I needed the money, and I just didn't think." He explained how a bad investment had left him in a desperate financial situation, and in a moment of panic, he had seen the watch as an easy solution. He hadn't considered the sentimental value, only the monetary one. The admission twisted my gut. He hadn't just stolen a watch. He had sold off a piece of our grandmother's legacy, a tangible link to her memory, without a second thought. "You pawned it?" I repeated, the anger flickering back, sharp and sudden. "You sold Grandma's watch for cash?" The image of her delicate hands winding it each morning, the gentle tick-tock against her wrist, flashed in my mind. It was a brutal blow, far worse than just the theft. He had not only taken it, but he had discarded it, treated it as a mere commodity. Michael flinched, his head dropping. "I know, Alex. I know it was a terrible thing to do. I didn't think. I was desperate. The confrontation, which I had expected to end with a triumphant reclaiming of what was mine, now felt like a gaping wound. The watch was gone, likely lost forever in the labyrinthine world of pawn shops and second-hand dealers. The hidden message, Grandma's final words to me, were probably gone too. The justice I had craved, the closure I had sought, felt elusive, replaced by a heavy sense of loss. "Where?" I demanded, my voice tight. "Where did you pawn it?" He gave me the name of a seedy pawn shop downtown, a place known for its questionable dealings. A flicker of hope, however faint, ignited within me. Maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late. Maybe I could still retrieve it. Retrieve her message. "I'll go with you," Michael said, surprising me. "I'll help you get it back. Whatever it takes." His offer, though belated, felt genuine. It was a small step, a fragile bridge forming across the chasm that had opened between us. We left his apartment, the air still thick with unspoken emotions, but something had shifted. The animosity, while not entirely gone, was tempered by a shared purpose. As we walked towards the pawn shop, a sense of bittersweet closure began to settle over me. I might not get the watch back, or the message, but I had gotten something else, the truth. And in that truth, in Michael's raw admission and his willingness to try and make amends, lay the first fragile seeds of a different kind of healing, a path towards a future where perhaps, just perhaps, we could begin to rebuild what had been broken. The journey for justice had not ended with a triumphant victory, but with a complex understanding and the daunting yet hopeful prospect of forgiveness. The courtroom hushed as the verdict was read. Guilty on all counts. A wave of relief so profound it nearly buckled my knees washed over me. For months, the legal battles had consumed every waking moment, every thought. My brother David stood there, his face a mask of disbelief and anger, not remorse. He still didn't get it. He still thought he was the victim. That hidden message, tucked inside Mom's old locket, had been the key, the irrefutable proof of his decades-long manipulation, his calculated schemes to strip me of everything. Justice, a concept that had felt so distant, so unattainable for so long, finally materialized. Yet, as I watched the bailiffs lead David away, there was no triumphant cheer, no surge of elation. Only a profound weariness settled over me, a quiet ache that resonated deep within my bones. This wasn't the sweet, exhilarating revenge I'd envisioned in my darkest, most obsessive moments. It was something far more complicated, far more bittersweet. Leaving the courthouse, the crisp autumn air felt different. The weight I had carried for so many years, the resentment that had festered and grown, had finally lifted. I looked at my reflection in a shop window, a man aged not just by years, but by the relentless pursuit of truth. The lines around my eyes were deeper, my hair a little grayer, but there was a new clarity in my gaze. The obsession that had driven me, the singular focus on David's downfall, had been a double-edged sword. It had given me purpose, yes, but it had also stolen precious time, moments I could have spent living, truly living, instead of just fighting. The phone call from my daughter Emily later that evening was a balm to my soul. "Dad," I heard. "Are you okay?" Her voice, filled with genuine concern, was a reminder of what truly mattered. I told her I was, and for the first time in a long time I genuinely meant it. Our relationship, strained by my single-minded quest for justice, had begun to heal in recent weeks. She had seen the toll it took on me, the way the bitterness had started to consume me. She had been the one to gently pull me back from the brink, reminding me that there was a life beyond this vendetta. The following months were a period of quiet rebuilding. I sold the old family home, the one David had tried to swindle from me. The memories within its walls were too tainted, too heavy. With the proceeds, I invested in a small local charity dedicated to helping families navigate complex legal battles, a small way to ensure others wouldn't suffer as I had. It wasn't about the money, it was about reclaiming my peace, about finding a new purpose that wasn't rooted in anger. One afternoon, while volunteering at the charity, I received a letter. It was from David, sent from prison. My heart pounded as I opened it, bracing myself for another diatribe of blame and denial. Instead, it was short, scrawled, and surprisingly devoid of his usual venom. He simply wrote, "I was wrong. About everything. I hope you can find peace." That letter, so unexpected, brought tears to my eyes. Not tears of joy, or even sadness, but a profound sense of release. It wasn't an apology, not truly, but it was an acknowledgement. For years I had craved that validation, that admission of guilt. Now that it had come, it felt almost anticlimactic. The battle was over and the victory was mine, but the cost had been immense. Looking out at the sunset, from my new, smaller apartment, I realized the true lesson. Justice had been served, yes, but true peace wasn't found in another's downfall. It was found in letting go, in forgiving not just David but myself for allowing the resentment to consume me for so long. The hidden message in Mom's locket had revealed David's treachery, but it had also, inadvertently, shown me the path back to myself. The journey had been long, arduous, and fraught with pain, but I emerged from it, finally, free.